Hey, this is Notser, and we're in the Z or Z46. I am talking about German destroyers in this video because, quite frankly, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I feel like they are torpedo focused, but it becomes really challenging to find any success with torpedoes at times. Sometimes I don't hit a single torpedo. Other times I can't miss. And is that how it feels to play as a primarily destroyer torpedo focused in the current state of the game? I just expect that I can build a strategy up with a particular line or a particular ship and go into it and execute it pretty much exactly as I state it whenever I start the game. The Soviet destroyers, they feel really good. It feels really good to stay on the flank, fire your guns, spot, avoid taking damage, but you don't really need to hide in smoke. You don't need to do any of that. Even the Americans feel more complete. I feel like I can choose to use my guns or my torpedoes. It's not such a hugely important process as the Germans. The Germans feel like you use your torpedoes, you use them as often as you can, and you use your smoke if you ever want to fire your gun, ever. So basically, my build is centered around torpedo acceleration and rearm, plus superintendent. Concealment as well. That's basically this build. I don't know what else to do. I really don't know what else to do. If you have a suggestion, I've got a 70 or 80% win rate in German destroyers, this is exactly. It just feels so hit or miss. One game I'm going to be amazing with my torpedoes. Another game I'll be lucky if I do 20 or 30,000 because the guns are that bad. So I don't know. Now, I headed off towards A point, and I'm trying to capture it, of course. I think these are 128 millimeters, right? There are 2 German destroyers that can do 150. And sometimes you want 150, but advanced firing training, basic firing training, a lot of skills don't work with the 150 millimeter guns. Not a surprise, of course. And I've also even considered maybe I could get ambushed by a Fiji right around the island. There's really no reason to pop my smoke here because he has hydroacoustic. Now, I do pop my smoke because obviously I want to survive. But look, they're going to use hydroacoustic when I'm not being detected. Or at least I should. I would. Why aren't you using hydroacoustic? Okay, now I'm outside of the range. But they're going to move out of the way of my torpedoes. Obviously, I can't be seen sending them. It's too obvious. Oh, wow, a German destroyer sent his torpedoes, and I should definitely use hydroacoustic more actively. The problem with the Germans is you operate a lot in your smoke. Most people don't give a crap about playing as a team. Right? Right. So what I find is I'm sitting in my smoke, aggressively trying to take the position for my teammates. I'm also waiting on my torpedoes, which have a really quick reload, by the way. And I'm just trying to find a target that is maybe just slightly distracted. I can't last very long in the smoke. I was trying to get the York to place an aircraft overhead so we could detect these guys, but he didn't give a crap, right? And that's how it felt at the beginning of this. It's just so hard to be successful in the Germans, I think. And this is how stealth firing is going to feel. You won't want to fire your guns. And the Fiji's pushing forward aggressively, probably intent on killing me, and I'm intent on not dying, so I'm going to try and round the island as quickly as I can. Also, maybe it's a potential safe zone where I can do damage to the target. I don't really know. I just want to live. So I send my torpedoes, expecting him to take it, and of course, doesn't hit a single target. Either he has hydroacoustic, or he just felt like he needed to turn abruptly in that moment. So another cooldown wasted. I'm just trying to run. I don't have torpedoes. I need to run. I don't want to fire my guns because they're that bad. And if I fire my guns, I'm going to be detected for 20 or 30 seconds. I can't survive 20 or 30 seconds. And it hurts me because my teammates need me, but I can't do anything. I can't fire my guns, or I shouldn't fire my guns. I have to wait on torpedoes. We got a Fiji and a Bismarck, both have hydroacoustic, both have great protection for torpedoes. They have to make a mistake for me to get any damage on them. But I am using torpedo acceleration. You might notice I am using torpedo acceleration. And my thought is, the guns are so bad, I'm not going to fire them. Unless I'm in smoke or behind an island. Just straight up, period. So I might as well go all in on the idea of a torpedo. I am going to be playing with my concealment. I am considering doing this with my Japanese, but I haven't really decided fully on that. The torpedoes are balanced around the idea that they will be accelerated. Unfortunately, this is the truth. You can, oh no, they would never do that. That's the truth. It's the same with advanced firing training and concealment and stealth firing and all this. You are balanced around the most extreme. And that's kind of why I feel like you have to have torpedo acceleration if you intend to send torpedoes in a reasonable manner. The game expects them to be moving faster, so the detectability on the torpedo is unfair for the set speed. Just like advanced firing training, just like concealment. The stealth fire range for Japanese, the reason the Japanese have such terrible range on their guns is because they have great concealment and great weapon bloom. If they didn't have great concealment and great weapon bloom, when they fired their guns, they would just basically play like the Germans. So they had to limit their total range as long as stealth firing is in the game. They don't want destroyers having 3, 4, 5, 6 kilometer window of stealth firing. That is unacceptable to wargaming. And that's why we have what we have. That's why in 0.6.3, apparently, the Japanese are going to be getting a buff on the range, because wargaming is changing something. Probably one of the most massive changes they've ever put in game. And, oh, by the way, why don't you check this out? Maybe you like it. So I'm just trying to slow down this flank. I sent torpedoes at the North Carolina. Why did I send him at the North Carolina? Because he looked like he was committed to going after the Iowa. And these are fast torpedoes. They're going to come up on you real quick. I'm hoping for some floods. Force out damage control. We do get a flood. We're not going to hit the Bismarck, of course, but we do get damage on the target. Force out damage control. And ideally, I would then go into smoke, set a fire on the target, and allow the dot to burn. That is probably the best possible scenario for the Germans. Am I right? I think that's the right way to approach it. It's very difficult, though. The smoke is always on cooldown. You don't really have a lot of them. I feel like I'm kind of worthless whenever I don't have smoke or there's too many people on the flank. The torpedoes rearm extremely fast, and I don't even have a drone rush yet. But it just, even though they rearm it this fast, it still feels like I'm just waiting on the rearm. I can't afford to fire my gun. That might show my ship and force me to die. Is this guy really going to sneak by and get 0? Oh, this is the most... Oh, it's so annoying. And the windows are just large enough for battleships. Oh, man. We'll see. We'll see if we can get him again. So, yeah, the Germans... I'm really having a tough time. The Neptune, the British cruisers, I know exactly how to play them. And I succeed all the time. Even if we lose the game, I'm basically top on the team in the Neptune, in the Minotaur, in the Edinburgh, in the Fiji. They're just really solid at their particular playstyle. But in the Germans, it feels like, man, hit or miss. It's the same with the Japanese. I need to improve the Japanese. I'm not giving up. Maybe the torpedo range is garbage. Maybe it's very difficult to be successful, but I'm not going to give up. I do feel like torpedo acceleration helps the process. It helped on my gearing. It's helping on the Z46, quite honestly. These guys just don't have as much reaction time as they would like. By the time he's seeing it, it's going 5 knots faster for the same detectability. Usually, if the torpedoes are moving that quick, he'll get probably 200-300 meters more detectability. but it's right on top of him, and we're able to do a lot of damage. Of course, we don't cause a flood. I am using the flood flag. I've done everything I can to improve the chance to cause a flood, but yeah, still no flood. It feels great. It feels great. I've tried using the AP, by the way, if you're saying, try go full gun. It just doesn't feel good. Enemies can angle and do no, and I can't do any damage. I've also considered the possibility that maybe inertia fused high explosive could help the HE, but I don't know. I don't know. The torpedoes rearm so quickly that this feels like a natural playstyle. So I just don't know. I just don't know. And this is going to be the feel for a lot of destroyers when stealth firing is removed. You're really going to have to consider whether it's worth it for you to even fire your gun. Now, obviously for the Soviets, who gives a crap? But for most destroyers, you really will be considering, do I fire my gun? Is it worth it to fire? And you'll say yes, no. And when it's no, you never fire. If there's even a hint that you might be seen for 20 seconds and that the enemy intends to try and go after you, you can't fire. You just can't fire. You have to rely on your smoke, and you have to rely on the islands. And that's basically what the Japanese and the Americans are going to have to deal with. The Soviets could give a crap about that. I wish they would compensate for the change. I wish they would do something. I've heard that they are like, you know what? I don't think we need to change anything. Look at the Germans, okay? What? You know, the Germans are actually getting a buff because of stealth firing going away, because they have such a terrible weapon bloom whenever they fire the gun. But they're not getting anything else. They're getting 1 or 2 kilometers of less visibility. It just feels awkward, right? I don't see a lot of German destroyers. Do you see a lot of German destroyers? Most destroyers that I see are honestly Japanese for whatever weird reason. I still don't get that. Why are so many people playing Japanese destroyers? They're just so awkward. And please cause a flood on this guy. Ooh, that flood should stick. It should stick for a while. And I don't know, have I ever hit 10 torpedoes with my German destroyers? I am going to chalk it up to the torpedo acceleration. It just feels better. It feels better. Yeah, I have terrible range, but it feels better. It just feels better. I don't know what it is. It just feels like it works out better. I gotta look at the Japanese and see if I can make it work there, right? It just... and don't even get me started on the Shimakaze. You know, do you use the 8-kilometer range torpedo? Do you use the 12-kilometer range torpedo? They basically have the same detectability. So torpedo acceleration is really a moot point. You know, it just is so weird. It's so weird. I wish the torpedo gameplay wasn't in its current state. The Shimakaze suffers because it has such a long rearm. The German, at least the Z-46 game, felt pretty good because the torpedo was basically up by the time it got to the next target. And of course, I'm trying to give him smoke. I'm trying to get in his way to stop him. But he doesn't get the picture. The enemy Bismarck is probably going to run into the island, and I think I'm going to hit him at least once. Can we cause a flood? Please cause a flood. We do cause a flood. And I'm going to try and use the AP, the great AP, and it's ricocheting off, so I need to use HE. I don't know. The Germans are just... It's just such a... It's a quandary. It really is a quandary. They've got high rearm of torpedoes. Their guns are okay. They could be better. You know, they're just okay. There's nothing spectacular about them. If they're caught out without torpedoes, they're pretty much screwed. They're pretty much screwed. I'm really hoping that one of you has a solution. You're like, oh yeah, Notser, I've got the perfect build for every single German destroyer, and you'll link it obviously in comments, and I'll be like, yeah, That feels good. But for now, yeah, I got great torpedo strikes on this one. And I was on the main primary flank of the enemy with no destroyer to help escort them. If there's a destroyer, I can't afford to be close. I have to be a little bit more passive. It's very difficult to have to catch up to people and torpedo them, I've found, in Japanese and other ships. So it works out perfect to have a low-range, fast torpedo when you're trying to slow the enemy down, but when you're trying to get ahead of the enemy on the other flank, you're kind of in a position where you can't do anything the entire game. So 156,000, not bad, but not good enough. The Scharnhorst and the Arpeggio Takao did a great job for our team. I was impressed. No kills. I was sad for that. But hey, I was just trying to get an idea of what to do in the Germans. I'm going to try more games like this, but I'm also going to look at the comments section to see what you suggest. I really appreciate everyone. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you next time.